It is the fracture of her first rib.
Because it looks like these otters are fixing to have relations right
Still
next
have
to
the
that
power
dam.
to soothe
And how
myself,
long?
but the irrepressible power of
You wake up alive. You wake up alive. You wake up alive. So long, feel my wings sometimes.
500 words or less. Tell a complete story. Sometimes have a twist ending. The rules of flash fiction are simple but challenging, and have drawn a group of writers to the Little Falls Public Library each week to share their work. They add one additional rule. The word of the week must be used someplace in the story. Flashcast is a showcase of their work, and each episode will feature stories inspired from the word of the week. The content that arises is astounding, the talent superb, and the creativity infectious. These stories are streaks of lightning, charged, compressed, and certain to entertain. Welcome to Flashcast.
A Sheltering Nest. How effortlessly we nest one life into another, like Russian dolls, each carved carefully to fit together, each a part of a whole, yet each a separate entity. Darlene traced her mirrored reflection, the large doll, seemingly the most detailed. This was the public part of her life, showy, yet showing nothing, painted in garish colors to distract the viewer from what lies beneath. Strangers judge superficially. Patiently peeling away the next layer, exposing the doll nested inside, casual acquaintances and colleagues may think they know us intimately, not realizing how many more layers nest within. Some of our quirks, opinions, preferences, and styles might be painted on this doll, but it is still a doll, a mere representation of ourselves. Drawing closer to the mirror, Darlene peered into the reflected eye. She saw only a tiny reflection of herself peering into the eye in the mirror. She knew what she was looking for, that tiny egg each of us holds inside, the finite evidence of our own existence, repeated infinitely. More layers needed to be breached, however, before even she could fathom so deeply. Layers and layers, each revealing something, or nothing, or creating a certain personality for one friend or relative and a different one for someone else. So many people nested into one body. Tightly fitting, the Russian dolls are easier to nest together than they are to pry apart. The gift of a nesting doll comes not from the object itself, but the trust that the recipient will open the successive dolls carefully, not abusing the privilege of intimate knowledge. Each layer of the doll, each layer of our personality, reveals only as much as we are willing to risk, willing to share with another human being. Darlene had been betrayed too many times to give this trust blithely. Even family had used certain confessions against her. That was why, when he asked to hear her most candid thoughts, wanted to know her completely and unabashedly, she had demurred. Yes, he was her husband-to-be, her beloved, but perhaps not her soulmate, perhaps not the person who should know every dot of paint, every variation of color, every hope, every layer of the dolls nesting together to form who she actually was. Not because she wanted to maintain mystery or secrets, but because she wasn't convinced he shouldn't know every atom of what she was. Peering again at the eye in the mirror, Darlene caught her breath. A flicker of something more than her reflected eye was there. Yes, it shone back at her, a pinpoint of light, the golden egg within the nest. She smiled, knowing she was vindicated. His subterfuge hadn't worked. The egg inside us, the tender yolk of our existence, is for us alone, not to be shared, but to be nurtured, to be the basis for all the other layers. Darlene turned from the mirror, reassembled the parts of personality comprising her nest, and greeted her fiancé. The egg remained just hers.
The Stowaway. For days the crew had been hearing strange sounds. They weren't the intimately familiar sort, the creaking of timbers, the wind humming through the lines, the cursing of a crew member who just lost at dice, and that last happened a lot, because no one ever won anything on this ship. And don't ask me how you can have games of chance where everyone loses. It's just part of what makes this ship special. The crew plays anyway. When you've been at sea as long as we have, you pass the time any way you can. We searched the ship from stem to stern, and then the captain sent me aloft to check the one place we hadn't looked. Well, Mr. Jansen? There's a crow's nest in the crow's nest, sir. One crow. She appears to be brooding, in the chicken and egg sense. It was very strange, and on this ship that was saying a lot. He just stared at me. Then, I'm going up, and if this is some kind of joke. The captain didn't finish, but I could well imagine. I watched as our dignified captain scampered up the rigging like a common swab to the crow's nest, and then, more slowly, down again. When he returned to the deck, there was something different in his manner that I'd never noticed before, and it worried me. It's impossible, he said, echoing my thoughts exactly. How did it get aboard? I had no answer. We named the crow Shadow. We kept as close to shore as we were allowed for the next several weeks, as we had no proper provisions, even allowing for a crow's forgiving palate. She had no mate, so when she left the ship to forage, we were careful to remain in the area until she returned, and she always did. We remained close to shore during the hatching, the fledging, and the first few tentative flights. Everyone watched the flights. We all cheered when Evie, the smallest of the brood, successfully flitted from the crow's nest to the yardarm and back again. I could see the look that I had noted on the captain's face spread to the rest of the crew. It won't be long now, the captain said. Nor was it. First Hugin and Munin left, the two oldest we had named for Odin's ravens, then little Evie, and finally Shadow herself. We watched each one, and when Shadow finally departed the nest for the last time, headed for the green hills we knew awaited her, there was a spontaneous cheer from the crew and captain alike. They all had that same silly look on their faces, and I was no different. Hope, I think it's called. It didn't belong on that ship. But then neither had Shadow or new life or new beginnings. We remained, of course. Nothing had changed. Except, of course, everything had changed. The captain gave the order, and the tattered sails of the Flying Dutchman drew us away into the darkness.
The Third Degree. Oh, look, honey. There's 3 eggs in the robin's nest on the windowsill. It must be a bonus for the honeymoon suite. They're starting their family life just as we're beginning ours, commented the proud new husband. It was a perfect wedding, and my very best gift was you, my handsome bridegroom. Now that we're alone, could I talk to you about a few things? I like to feel organized before we plunge in, so to speak, her cheeks showing a becoming blush. Okay, babe, what's on your mind? Do you think I ought to wear pajamas, or would a nightgown be best? I brought both. Well, I haven't thought much about that, but I guess a nightgown would be more feminine. Another thing, Roger, I know you aren't particularly shy, but do you like to have the light on or off? Taking a clue from her concern, he said, well, I guess it'd be good to have it dark. Well, secretly, I didn't want you to see the new pimple on my back and get distracted. Crossing the room and looking at the thermostat, she said, it's bound to get warm in here. Do you think we ought to open a window? I tend to get rather noisy in this situation, so it better stay shut. There's no need to entertain the people in the courtyard. I wonder if there's a fan we could use, she mused, rummaging in the closet. Oh, my goodness, did you count the number of blankets on the bed? 3 would make me sweat, and that would definitely be unromantic. Would 1 blanket be okay with you, honey? That's a perfect number, my darling, he said, ready to agree to practically anything. Oh, dear, the pillows are like concrete, she fussed. Oh, I don't know, I like that firm feeling. Let's check with room service in the morning and get a softer one for you. Have I heard all your questions? There's only a few more, and I know that communication is important in marriage, she said with the beginning of a frown on her brow. I never told you this, but I usually feel hungry at night. Would you be okay with eating in bed? Sorry, Susie, but that would be like sleeping in a gravel pit, so I guess the answer's no. This must be a new mattress, he said in a quiet voice, stretching out full length and heaving a sigh. It's like lying on a cloud. Maybe we better set the alarm clock. What do you think? Roger. No answer from the bridegroom, who was feeling the effects of a perfect mattress. Too much discussion, she said, murmured the organized bride. I guess I'll ask him again in the morning when the alarm clock goes off.